So this definitely feels a bit strange. I never thought I would tell anyone that sports aren't important, that the world can possibly go on without sports. I grew up as a sports obsessed kid. I've made my career about sports. Sports have been a part of my livelihood, have been a part of my income for many years. But I was wrong because sports aren't really that important in the grand scheme of things. We've learned that throughout history. And while sports can be great and can do a lot of good and can entertain us, even provide a respite and a distraction, sometimes a necessary one, say after 9/11. Sports were good. They helped galvanize the country again. But the world can go on without sports. In fact, it's happening right now. I never thought it would, but we're experiencing it right now. I'm your host, Mike Asti, and this is another episode of Mic Drop on Pittsburgh Sports Live. And again, this one's not like the rest. Okay, this one's not a deep dive into a team season, into what's going on with Pitt, West Virginia, the Penguins, even the Pirates, or especially the Steelers. This isn't about the drama of a player, say all those Antonio Brown shows I did throughout the channel that helped get this notoriety at one point. This is not some controversy or even about a CBA. That was a recent show, what's going on with the NFL right now. This is not even about March Madness, which it should be about right now. Look at my last show. That one, the real Mountaineers are standing up. That show focused on how the Mountaineers are really not this elite team they were earlier in the season. They went on a losing streak. Yes, they won against Baylor, but they're kind of crawling into what was or is still the Big 12 tournament, even though fans are not going to be watching. And the Mountaineers are not truly a top 15 team in terms of the team makeup and actually the experience level of this team, what you should expect or what anybody did expect before the season. The beginning of the year was kind of fool's gold. That was a recent show. That was the last show that I had up on the channel. That's talking sports. That's analyzing sports. And even though throughout my career, and I actually remember when I was with the Trib, I had to spend a good chunk of that time, at least early on, doing shows with AP writers and CNN and etc., talking about the national anthem and how that connected to the sports world, but that was really beyond a sports conversation. I've had to touch on things that weren't sports throughout my sports media career, which a lot of the time I rolled my eyes and it was kind of annoying, but you had to do it. And it was fitting at that time. But right now, people are freaking out. People are mad. There's madness among us in March, but it's not on the hardwood. It's the fact that the coronavirus, who many thought, including myself, was basically just the flu, maybe the flu with a cough weeks ago. And I'm not saying that I know what it is or don't know what it is. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not going to play one here on this show or on the online digital radio platform that we have got going on, this TV radio side here of the Now Network. I'm not going to pretend to be a doctor here either. And I'm sure there's some hysteria going on. There's some social media hysteria. We're in every second of our news cycle. We learn something now. Even 10 years ago during the swine flu, the news cycle wasn't this fast with social media now so popular, so prevalent in our society and how people do consume news. So there's some hysteria, for sure. But when you have the NBA suspending a season, when you have the NHL putting up such strict locker room policies, which, yes, were kind of hypocritical, because at one point they were trying to segregate the media away from the players, but didn't mind players being close to fans. Same thing with the NBA when they were doing that initially. Major League Baseball playing games without fans, already talking about doing that to open up the season on opening day, one of the most popular times of the baseball calendar. There might not be fans there. They're already discussing that being okay in certain markets. And then here, and this is kind of what we're talking about here in the Now Network, the remainder of the ACC tournament, the remainder of these conference tournaments, and then likely into legit March Madness, the NCAA tournament, going to be held without fans. The ACC tournament, the rest of it, Pitt's already been eliminated. We'll get to kind of part of that and what we debuted here on the channel here in a moment. But the ACC tournament, the rest of it, without fans. The Big 12 tournament, the rest of it, without fans. The Big 12 tournament will be played without fans, and that's the entirety of it, actually, because it hasn't gone underway yet. Men's and women's, no fans there. It's just going to feel odd. It's going to feel eerie. And it's happened before in sports. There was a colleague of mine who threw up a tweet that's just incorrect. The Orioles and Chicago White Sox played a game without fans. Only media and select personnel were there during the Baltimore riots due to fan safety. It's happened before. Saw even a joke tweet reply to me about the Mankind, Mick Foley, The Rock, no fan, empty arena match at halftime of the Super Bowl one year, I believe, back in '99. So it's happened for major events. It's happened even in legit sports, with Major League Baseball having that no fan game at Camden Yards. But for an entire tournament, for what looks to be a month plus, for seasons to be delayed, maybe canceled, we don't know. I'm assuming played at some point, but we don't know as I record this. And so many games day after day that are still going to be on your TV. There's still going to be TV revenue. They're going to lose the attendance there with fans, but you're still going to get TV network revenue. Those leagues aren't going to go bankrupt from this. To see those games played without fans, even to hear the broadcasters without a crowd around them, especially college athletics, Dickie V, we know how much the crowd is involved, even in those broadcasts. It's going to be weird. It's going to be strange. But honestly, I'm not going to get too mad about it. I'm not going to freak out about it, and honestly, it's the right call right now. I get the coronavirus can be annoying. I get there might be an hysteria. It might be over-exaggerating the situation. And myself, you probably watching, and most of us out there, it's not going to be a big deal because we have a normal immune system. Our immune system's going to fight everything off, or if we do get it, we're going to have what basically will be the flu with the little extra cough for a few days. I'll tell you to chug some pineapple juice, and we'll be fine. I'll chug pineapple juice every day, and I'll eventually be fine. Again, pineapple juice, you got to sponsor me at some point. That's one sponsorship I have to have for my career to finally be, or eventually be a success. It will never be unless I have pineapple juice. Some company, I would appreciate Dole eventually sponsoring me. But I digress. But it's the call they had to make. Europe's doing this. They're canceling leagues. They're canceling seasons. They're postponing everything. Once you had Harvard doing it and you trickle down, and we know the medical college there and what that means in the Ivy League. And yes, again, there could be a lot of hysteria to this. But the leagues had no other choice. If a state like, say, Washington is mandating nothing happening with any event of over 200 people, and you have an arena where you have 20,000, or you have a stadium for the Mariners where you hold, what does that hold? 40, 50,000? That's pretty big for a baseball park. Maybe 35 at the least, but regardless, I don't know the Safeco Field numbers, but it's more than 200 people. What are you going to do? You're going to keep on? You're going to defy that ruling? Because as much as, yes, it's annoying to have government officials tell you that some type of order is voluntary and have it not really be voluntary because they're going to pull it down with an iron fist, I get it. That's annoying. All politicians lie to you. That's annoying. But in reality, it's better to be overcautious. It's better to be extra safe. Because not everybody has the immune system that I have or that you maybe have watching. Okay? There's people that we know and love, including people that I know and love that close to me, that don't have that great of an immune system, that actually have a compromised immune system, that go about their everyday life. Somebody very close to me is like this. Goes about her everyday life, never would know it looking at her, never would know it talking to her, but her immune system is a little bit compromised from something that happened when she was a kid. So she could easily contract this, easier than you. And if she did contract it, it'd be hard to fight it off. She would have it longer. She may not die from it, but she'd have it longer. What about people with cancer? People with cancer are not going to fight this off. They're going to have an easier time contracting it. They're going to have a tougher time fighting it off. It's going to almost be a death knell for them. And yes, the flu has killed before, and it's not a normal thing that kills, and it's usually only an immune system issue. And yes, the coronavirus is like that with a little bit worse of a cough. Again, I don't want to play a doctor. I don't know the parameters of medicine and what's going on with the coronavirus. I do know, the only thing I really can tell you is that the Corona Beer Company is not responsible. So if you're a bar and you're not doing some Corona promotion, you're doing the coronavirus wrong. And we should all apologize to the Corona Company, who's actually losing sales and losing situation in the stock. The stock for Corona is plummeting when that's ridiculous because, again, our society is so stupid, it has nothing to do with anything. But regardless, Corona's situation will leave that be and just enjoy the hilarity of that. But the coronavirus is a real thing. There is hysteria involved, but Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL, college athletics, these major institutions and leagues, they had no choice. They had to make these moves. They had to do this. They couldn't buck what's happening the rest of the state and act like they're this own independent body. I mean, you have Rudy Gobert, who joked about this and touched every microphone in sight to make a mockery, having an illness. Reports are having the coronavirus. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but having an illness, that leading to the Thunder and Jazz having a game that was about to start being postponed and then the entire season being delayed, as they worded it. But regardless of your opinion, and again, I do believe there's some hysteria here. There might even be over-exaggerations. There might be a little bit of a hoopla for nothing, maybe. A week or so ago, I was rolling my eyes, and I'm still kind of rolling my eyes now, honestly. But the world can go on without sports. The world has gone on without sports before. And yes, sports can be good, and yes, sports can bring the country together in time of need. And yes, we do need sports as a distraction. And major leagues, I've touched on this before, no matter what you think, no matter what scandal's going on, major leagues like, say, the NFL to that level, they're not going to go away. Even if you stop watching, they're going to be fine in of themselves. However, we're experiencing it now, and the sun's going to come up tomorrow. We're still going to go to work. We're still going to have our personal lives with our family and loved ones, and we're going to have a little bit less entertainment in our lives. But we're still going to probably talk about it and complain about it on Twitter and on social media, I'm sure. The world can go on without sports. The world currently is going on without sports. And regardless of your opinion involved with the coronavirus, whatever you think of the coronavirus, and I'll even say the coronavirus hysteria because that does exist, it's number one, better to be overly cautious than not. It's better to be overly cautious than not cautious at all. Absolutely. Number two, it's the decision these leagues had to make. Their hand was forced based on what's going on in these individual states, in this country. The president coming on and saying there's now a travel ban with people in Europe coming to and from and quarantining people who were on a cruise ship and not letting them back and all of that. There's nothing else these leagues could do. And I'm not trying to get in the political conversation here, but there's nothing else these leagues could do. They had to make this call. They had to make these decisions. It sucks. Sucks for me. We're going to be a bit dry in terms of what we're covering unless there's some major news going on in some of these sites. Yes, these games are still going to be played, but it'll take some luster away from those games being played, and who knows what the decision eventually will be. Who knows whether maybe March Madness altogether will be canceled. I don't think they need to go that far, and I will also say this. It is better, as much as it will suck, it is better to have these games played without fans than not at all. The NBA is delaying their season right now. Would you rather the games not played at all in these conference tournaments that are just doing it without fans? Would you rather the NCAA tournament not happen at all? Or would you rather do it without fans there in attendance? Okay, I've been to some of those. I've covered some of those conference tournaments, called them, covered them in college and professionally. Been to the NCAA tournament in college and then professionally, having covered it. Even was at one as a fan. It's awesome. It's a once in a lifetime experience, even though I've done it more than one time. It's generally a once in a lifetime experience, but it's an awesome experience nonetheless, and I don't take for granted that I've experienced it as a fan and as a member of media multiple times. Okay, it's really, really cool to be there. And it maybe is even cooler to be there as a fan, honestly, that experience. To soak it all in and not have to worry about any stress of any work you're doing, because contrary to what many of you may believe, being in media covering teams, there is work and there's stress involved. It's not really sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. It's not always fun, even though it's certainly not digging a ditch anywhere. However, it's better to have these than not. To have these on TV, to still be able to entertain on TV, to still have this, to be able to still have your bracket pool. You don't need the fans there to have that. It takes away from it. But this was a decision that had to be made with what's going on in the country right now. The fact that we don't know enough about the coronavirus. The fact that people have died from it, even if it's just like the flu and even if it's a low number. The percentages are actually higher than the flu. And the fact that there are people with compromised immune systems out there in this world walking among us. I may have a regular immune system. I could fight it off. I could give it to somebody with a compromised immune system. They might not be able to fight it off as well. That's why these decisions had to be made. Had to. Hand was forced. And it's better to have the games without fans, as much as it sucks, than to not have them at all. So be happy they're even being had. Happy these games are taking place if they take place without fans. Because again, that's better than canceled altogether, than delayed altogether. How long can the NBA delay? They will have the NBA Finals in August. Not much of a break before the next season. Delay that, and then again you're delaying another one. Just play less games every year? Who knows? This could trickle down. They have a short off season. Same thing in the NHL, and we'll see what ends up happening there. We know the locker room policy. We know what's going on with those games. Right now they're happening, but who knows what the news will hold or the future will hold. I could stop recording and that news could already happen. Point of it is, it's better to have the games without fans than not have them at all. It was hypocritical when they were trying to segregate the media, but still allow the fans to be there, especially in the NBA, where those fans being so close courtside, and even in the NHL. And sports are great. Sports are important, and certainly in my life, even though I'm not as much of a fan in part of my career, but still. But the world can go on without sports. It can, it is, and it will. Now, part of sports still, but also some news we want to touch on here in Pittsburgh Sports Live, and you've already experienced it. They actually touched on this conversation a bit in their recent post-game show, but it is kind of what's going on now with the channel as we do expand. Pittsburgh Post-Game is now a part of Pittsburgh Sports Live. You can find that through the channel. You can find its own section there. Pittsburgh Postgame as part of Pittsburgh Sports Live. As I go down, that's some live streams. There you go, Pittsburgh Postgame. These were old ones I did for the Steelers that are now up there, and even one for WVU. And these are the recent ones. We now add Matt Kaika to our network, to our family of networks, to Pittsburgh Sports Live. He's been around the Pittsburgh media scene for sure, and now will be one of our hosts. I'm also going to host them in addition to my shows here and what else I do with the Now Network, but he'll probably be the main guy to be hosting Pittsburgh Postgame. He did the NCAA tournament. He did the ACC tournament victory for Pitt, and then the ACC tournament loss for Pitt. So the two shows there. We got a Penguin show coming up next week if they actually have those games being played. But Alan and Matt talked about Pitt's season kind of wrap up because there's no postseason now with the CBI being canceled altogether, and that's one tournament I don't think anyone's going to cry too much that that's not there. RMU's victory to get in the NCAA tournament. And then what's going on here with the coronavirus. So again, Pittsburgh Postgame, now a part of Pittsburgh Sports Live. Matt Geika now a part of Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm going to be in that rotation. Expect Matt, probably even Dan as well, hosting postgame shows. The hosting shows after the games, after the major games, throughout Pitt season, throughout the Mountaineers, throughout Penguins, throughout the Steelers season. When we get back into Steelers season, it's all going to be there. Pittsburgh Postgame now a part of Pittsburgh Sports Live. So again, if you like Matt, if you like Pittsburgh Postgame, if you like what it was when he was doing it personally, and now that it's a part of Pittsburgh Sports Live, subscribe. It's critical. Click on the subscribe button down below this video. Make it easier for us to get the content to you, and now help Matt out as well as helping all of us out. Keep this network rolling, pay the bills here at this network, and allow us to do fun things like that in bringing Pittsburgh Postgame to Pittsburgh Sports Live. Matt Geico with us here, Pittsburgh Sports Live, one of the main hosts in that rotation with myself and others to host Pittsburgh Postgame here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. But I will tell you, it will not affect the rest of the network. The network is just expanding and getting better and better. We still got the postgame reaction, the player interviews, the coaching interviews. Now that Pitt's basketball season is over, Pitt still goes into training camp and a discussion with what's going on with Pitt football and maybe the future of Pitt basketball, the Pitt women all across Pitt athletics, Robert Morris, Duquesne. They do have a postseason to worry about. What's going on with those programs? That's all Pittsburgh Sports Now. Expect all the postgame reaction with all of those teams, as well as shows and postgame action for Pittsburgh postgame. Pittsburgh Sports Now. Again, hit us up, pittsburghsportsnow.com at the mothership. Pittsburgh Hockey Now, Dan with his Pens live chat, does them about once a month, also covering the Penguins, who are now fully into the season, toward the end of the season now, and trying to get off of their own losing ways. They got recent wins over bad teams and have lost to good teams. So we'll see where this goes. We'll see where the goalie controversy goes. We'll see where that Pittsburgh Hockey Now coverage goes and where it goes into that postseason. And Pittsburgh Postgame will have postgame shows of majorly big Penguin games. And, of course, after every playoff game, if they do get there, which I'm going to assume is definitely going to happen, but throughout the entirety of their playoff run, we'll be there as well with Pittsburgh Postgame after those postseason games. SteelersNow.com, of course, this is still the offseason. We're dealing with the CBA and that collective bargaining agreement, and whether or not that's going to happen. We're still kind of waiting in a lull, but we're now close to the draft. We're now looking at the NFL draft. I'm going to be hosting another live on-location show, probably, I believe, at the Walnut Grills, where I was at last year, so I'll drop that promotion since they sponsor us nonetheless, if they're gracious to host us and gives us some free apps, because that was phenomenal last year. With major love, too, to the brisket nachos there at Walnut Grill. 2 thumbs up for the brisket nachos at Walnut Grill. Steelers off season, then we go into the Steelers season. We go to the draft, we go to training camp, we go to mini camp, rookie mini camp, again training camp. We go into the season. Pittsburgh Postgame will be there after those Steeler games, but we're going to be there throughout the entirety of that Steeler coverage, all through the off season before that next season hits, because we're now well away from that still, even though the NFL calendar rolls year round. SteelersNow.com. And also make sure to hit up WV Sports Now, as that's now one of our newer members of the Now Network, covering the Mountaineers, who will have a postseason Big 12 tournament without fans, but then also the NCAA tournament. They're going to be there, despite the fact that it's been a little bit of a slide and a crawl to get into the postseason of late, and maybe this Mountaineer team not as good as many would have thought. Pittsburgh Postgame will be there after some of those games or those postseason games. I will be heavily involved in that, obviously, and we'll still be bringing you my shows. So in addition to all the Now Network sites, in addition to what they're going to be producing for the channel, you will also still get, and there's Pitt shows, obviously. There's the Pens live chats. There's Pittsburgh Hockey Now's player reaction, coaching reaction, Mike Sullivan talking there. You will get Steelers Now, of course, with what we had from the Combine. A lot of videos from the Combine there still as you prepare for the draft and kind of learn things. Pittsburgh Sports Now there with what's going on with Pitt, Robert Morris, and Duquesne. 2 of those 3 have a postseason still happening, and the one that doesn't is Pitt, the name of the site, unfortunately. And then there you go. My shows will also still happen as everything revolves around those, or at least maybe in my mind. Shows on whatever's going on at the time. The news of the day, several of those a week, I will still try to promise for you, whether they're on what's going on with the Penguins, what's going on with Pitt, what's going on with any of these other Pittsburgh college teams, what's going on with WVU, did recent shows on the Mountaineers in their postseason now in the NCAA tournament, with or without fans being there. And, of course, heavy in my coverage because of my involvement with Steelers Now and because of my manager work there and being a part of that full-on coverage while Alan kind of reports the scene around it. SteelersNow.com heavily into that season. So I will still have my shows. I will still give you the mic drop shows. I'll be a part of those post-game show rotations. I'll be one of those hosts. Matt will be there. He'll be hosting a lot of those. It's kind of what he's going to be bringing to us, as well as those morning wake-ups, a part of our social channel here, a part of Pittsburgh Sports Live. So Pittsburgh post-game becomes a part of Pittsburgh Sports Live. Matt Geiken now becomes a part of Pittsburgh Sports Live. And even though right now there's not sports per se to cover, or at least as much of it, at least not sports that the fans can attend, sports aren't everything, and the world can go on without sports. But until it does, we want to remind you to, again, follow us, Pittsburgh Sports Now, Pittsburgh Hockey Now, WV Sports Now, PittsburghSoccerNow.com as well, Racing Now, and SteelersNow.com. Follow us on Twitter at PGH Sports Live. You just saw the moniker there. You just saw the banner. Click on the subscribe button there below the channel. Pittsburgh Sports Live, PGH Sports Live on Twitter, Pittsburgh Sports Live on Facebook, and PGHSportsLive.com for the website of this channel. Again, sports have been a large part of my life for sure, but it's only mature now to realize there was no other decision. Be happy that there are games and the games are happening at all, because sports are fun, sports are entertaining, sports are important in a way, but sports just aren't everything. Sorry.